What's up guys? Quadrature's Danny doesn't have mic to talk. I'll do all the talking. We study Ubuntu file structure. Introduction to Ubuntu Linux file system. Linux is modeled on the Unix operating system from the start. Linux was designed to be a multitasking, multi-user system. These facts are enough to make Linux different from other well-known operating systems. As we said before, Linux is kernel, and on top of it is operating system graphical user interface. But before we dive in, we look in GNU.org, and if you have time, read more about GNU.org. Free Software Foundation. GNU is the main component that plays a significant part in Linux operating system. GNU stands for GNU's not Unix. What is the free software movement? The free software movement campaigns to win for the users of computing the freedom that comes from free software. Free software puts its users in control of their own computing. Non-free software puts its users under the power of the software's developer. Read more at www.gnu.org. Introduction to Ubuntu Linux file system. Ubuntu Linux consists of command line interface, also called CLI, and graphical user interface, also called GUI, where CLI and GUI interact with each other. Think Linux Ubuntu operating system as a big tree. Tree has a root, and the user who installs Linux it in the computer is root. Like you are the root of the tree, which if you install as you, it is commonly called root user. Root user can do anything, just like tree root, which the entire tree structure stands on root. Linux is exactly works the same way as tree structure. The first person who installs Linux in computer is root. Root user can create, rename, update, and delete folders, can install programs and software, and can delete programs or modify programs. In this process is called root user privilege and permission. So in nutshell, root user has all the privilege and permission to do anything he or she wants. But non-root users can't do any of the above. They need to have that privileges and permission. If root user provides them, and they can do what root user can do. If 5 people or say a big crowd wants to use the same computer, and all wants to create, delete or modify files and folders or install software in Linux, but only if root user can do, then computer becomes useless to other users. That's what Linux has system called root group. It is group of all root users. If you were root user and want to install or remove software, you must use sudo, followed by your password, to let the Linux know that you are root. Sudo stands for superusedo. It is a utility for Linux Ubuntu systems that provides an efficient way to give specific users permission to use specific system commands at the root, most powerful level of the system. The first root user can create other users and give them root privilege and permissions, so they can create, update, modify or delete softwares as they wish. But only if root user can't trust James Bond user and decides to create user James Bond but not give them root privilege or permission, then the non-root user, which is James Bond, still can use computer, can still log in or out in their accounts, but cannot modify or delete or update anything. If they try to do any file or folder deletion or modify or install software, then they'll see full wrath of Linux, and Linux blocks and prevents them from doing that, and Linux report the suspicious activity to the root user. So a root user has all the privileges and permission to do anything he or she wants. Root user can create any number of users, whether these new users included in user root group or not. It is good idea when you install Linux, create at least one root user group, and log in as user root group. If main root picks up virus or malware, it's a disaster for computer. As if you accidentally pick up any malware and virus online, then the virus must not have root user privileges. Linux prevents viruses to spread to all computer if group users have it in their accounts. So the virus stays in that account and cannot spread to all computer. If virus spread to user, you can simply delete user and create new user. and virus gets deleted with the infected user account. But if virus spreads in root, then it can bring down the Linux tree, and you have to reinstall it again. If virus spread in group root user, then you simply delete the account and create another one. So if you are root user but forgot your password, you cannot log in, ever. What is the Linux file system? Ubuntu Linux organizes file into directories. A directory is a special file that can contain other files and directories, when a directory can contain other directories. This method of organizing files gives rise to a directory hierarchical structure. This hierarchical organization of files is the file system. The Linux file system gives you a system on your PC. The file system has a single root directory, indicated by a /. Within the root directory is a hierarchy of files and directories, such as home, desktop, documents, download, music, pictures, videos, rubbish bin, and at the bottom we see 9 dots. That's where Linux stores all softwares that we have installed in the computer.
Go to Files on this corner, then Other Locations, and we click. Then we click on Computer, and then as we can see all the folders that is main part of Linux operating system. As here we can see bin is for binary, bin executable programs that are part of the Ubuntu Linux operating system. As here many Linux commands, such as cat, cp, ls, more, and tar resides in bin directory. Then we have boot directory. Boot directory consists of all booting Linux files, boot Linux kernel and other files that the Lilo and Grub boot managers need. The kernel and other files can be anywhere, but placing them in the boot directory is customary. Then we have CD-ROM directory. This directory is self-explanatory. This is for all CD and DVD files and folders. Then we have dev director. Dev directory is special files that represent devices attached to the system. Monsieur. Then we have etc. directory, etc. most system configuration files and the initialization scripts. Then we have home directory. Home directories of all users. User Yazdani's home directory is home/Yazdani. Then we have lib for library directory. Lib or library files for all programs stored in SBIN directory and bin directories, including the loadable driver modules needed to start Linux. The lib32 directory stands for 32-bit library system files and followed by lib64 directory, and this stands for 64-bit system files. Then we have media directory. Media directory. The media directory has all users' media files and folders. Media directory is used for mounting file systems on removable media, such as CD, DVD-ROM drives, flash drives, external drives and zip drives. Then we have mount for mount directory. Mount directory temporarily mounted file systems. Then comes in opt director next. Opt directory storage for large application software packages. For example, some distributions install the LibreOffice. Google installs the Android Studio and Sublime Text installs Sublime IDE in the opt directory. Then we have proc directory. Proc directory stands for process, and it processes various information about the processes running in the Linux system. Monsieur. As by now you already know, root and root directory is main directory. It has cross on it. You cannot modify files and folders inside root, because as the name suggests is the root directory of the system. Monsieur. Never ever mess with root directory. Root home directory for the root user. Then we have run directory. Run stands for running all software installed in Ubuntu system that you as root has downloaded. Then we have SBIN. The SBIN directory is for executable files representing commands typically used for system administration tasks and used by the root user. Commands such as halt and shutdown resides in the SBIN directory. Then we have snap directory. The snap directory is, by default, where the files and folders from installed snap packages appear on your system. We talk more about snap on later videos of how installation works on Ubuntu Linux. We move forward and we have next is SRV directory. SRV directory contains data for services such as web and FTP. If you are a web developer, you know what this folder is, and it is part of Ubuntu operating system. We move forward, and we have sys for system directory. Sys directory contains information about the devices, as seen by the Linux kernel. The next one is TMP or temporary directory. TMP or temporary directory that any user can use as a scratch directory, meaning that the contents of this directory are considered to be unimportant and usually are deleted every time the system boots. But we move forward, and we have USR directory. The USR directory consists of several subdirectories that contain Linux commands and data files. It is also the default location of user home directories. The user/bin directory contains more Linux commands. Then the last but now least we var directory. var holds various system files such as logs, as well as directories for holding other information, such as files for the web server and anonymous FTP server. It also holds www and HTML files and folders. We need this folder to work on websites and build our web and run localhost networking. Localhost is very important if we want to build local websites in PHP, Ruby on Rails and
To locate a file, you need more than just the file name. You also need information about the directory hierarchy, the extended file name, showing the full hierarchy of directories leading to the file. This is called full path name to the file. So in a nutshell, the root directory, indicated by a /, the directory hierarchy, with each directory name separated from the previous one by a /. A / appears after the last directory name. The directory within another directory is called subdirectory. Next we work on Linux commands and functions.